It's my pleasure today to introduce you to this fabulous lady, Ash Coleman. So, as Demi mentioned, we help Recruit Better to Charlotte. We also help Credit Karma expand in Charlotte. And Ash is head of DEI for Credit Karma. She moved here in March from Oakland, California. I met her for the first time when Credit Karma announced their expansion in May. And I was immediately like, ooh, she's a game changer. And so I'm excited to have her today talk to you all a little bit about her background and her passion. And we are so pumped to see the change and the ripple effect of having Ash in Charlotte. So thank you all for your time today and enjoy your time with Ash.
All right, folks, can you hear me? In true millennial fashion, I have my phone in my hand because it just permanently exists there. So, excuse me. I appreciate that intro, y'all. It's so good to be here. And in fact, this is my first time on a stage in over 2 years talking about the things that I love, which include anything from cooking, engineering, all the way to my pride and passion, which is diversity, equity, inclusion. I was super elated to receive this invitation, and I'm very ecstatic to be in front of all of you today. So, with this, I'm not going to do the traditional style. I don't have the slides. I apologize for my folks who are visual. Hopefully, we can get some subtitles in there for you. If not, ping me. I have this all drafted out for you in the future. Anyways, I want to share a little bit about my story with you. And in order to understand my story, I want to bring you back to when I was living in the sunny state of California growing up. So, some of the most poignant advice I ever received was from a man that my mother knew. His name was Richard. And Richard was the epitome of success to me. This man had built and sold many companies throughout his career and was a master of entrepreneurship. He genuinely understood the craft. He knew it well, and he did it like it was on the back of his hand, right? This man would sit and entertain me, little old me, every now and again. I remember I would text him. I'd open my flip phone and I'd text Richard and say, like, hey, Richard, I'm out in Laguna. He lived in Laguna Beach. For those who know California well, Laguna Beach is a wonderful place. He lived out in Laguna Beach in a small house on Pacific Coast Highway. And I would say, hey, I'm driving down Ocean Avenue. Are you home? And he'd say, yeah, come on over. And so I'd go over there and I'd sit with him and I'd chat. I'd chat with him about things that were important to me at the time. I saw his success and I said, you know what? Being close to you feels like not only is success something that is real, but it's something that's obtainable. And he would always just kind of like hug me in and just, cuddle me and help me understand, someday, Ash, you'll have that success. So, anyways, one day I was emboldened to ask him the real question, which is, what's the key to success, right? Like, what's the recipe to success? And this is the thing that I want to share with all of y'all today, right? We were sitting there. I remember it so vividly. It's ridiculous. So I'm not even going to use my notes to talk through this part of the story. We were sitting at his bar area in his kitchen. And he leaned over and he said, you know, success is like a tree. And I was like, huh? What does that even mean? And he's like, well, you know anything about trees? And I'm not an arborist or a horticulture person that's involved in horticulture or any of that stuff. That's really hard to say with a mask on, right? Anyways, I'm not someone who knew much about trees, but I was listening and I was young and I was thinking at the time, I'm like, you know what? I'd really love to open a Cold Stone Creamery franchise or a movie theater for myself so my friends can come and have premiere parties with me. That's what success looked like to me at the time. And he said, okay, so if you want this success, here's what it looks like. If you ever mind the roots of a tree, there are 3 root systems. The first one is taproot. And he goes on to say, the taproot is the first root that's spread from a tree, from the seed of a tree, excuse me. He says, that root dives deep as deep as the soil will let it go. And its sole purpose is to establish security and space, right? It's for all of your day to day. It's to keep you standing. And then he goes on to say, and then there are your supporting roots, which are the other two that I'm going to mention. Mind you, there are more than 3 types of roots. I'm speaking root systems here. I went back and researched it so I can get it right for the talk. And he talks through and he says, the next thing I'm going to talk about are the supporting roots. These roots are established wide and broad, and in some cases diagonally, in order to support the tree once it starts to grow and endures things like weather, wind, all of the things that could potentially toss it to and fro. And he said, and that's what success looks like. It looks like the roots of these trees. Now, he went on to say, the taproot is something that's interesting because when you look at your career, that is your job, your day to day. It's the thing that you do to bring home the bacon. And he went on and he talked about this a little bit more in depth. And what I gathered from it was, okay, success looks like a taproot where I plant a seed and I establish a place. I get some nutrients, I get a little bit of water, and that's amazing. He then says, those supporting roots, though, those are your passion. And he said something next that I'm actually going to read because I want to make sure that I get this exactly right. He said, when you think about your life and your career, it is seldom that you have the opportunity to do what you love and what you're passionate about. Now, folks who know me know I'm a big and person. For those out there in the audience, and is a joining factor usually used in improv to keep the conversation moving. I don't like dead ends. I like the and. And so you'll hear me say that a lot. So when I heard him say that, I was like, that's really interesting. But it took me a while to actually soak into what he said. So I'm going to say it again since I don't have a lovely slide so y'all can catch this. When you think about life and your career, it is seldom that you have the opportunity to do what you love and what you are passionate about. So immediately I started thinking, why is that and so important? And why is passion and love separate? What does that mean? So he continued to talk a little bit about it, and he started explaining his career. You can think of work like a tree, right? When a tree grows, it develops 3 types of roots. The first, the taproot, it's the job to secure you and the tree to opportunities for growth and opportunities for life and success. It's secure and grows mostly in a tree's infancy, right? He continues and says, the other 2 are supports, lateral and heart roots, who are found closer to the surface and spread broadly across the surrounding areas of the tree, and diagonally as well. Their purpose is to help support the tree from succumbing to all of the effects. Remember that. That's what he said. And so I started thinking, okay, well, if I'm going to get this Cold Stone Creamery, right, I'm really going to have to plant some seeds today. Long story short, I left this conversation and I eventually went off to college. I'm a first-generation college graduate. Thank you. Thank you. And when I was in college, I planted a lot of seeds, right? I'm like, okay, I worked at Wells Fargo. It was really fun. Planted that seed. Didn't really pan out. That's fine. Worked as a vet tech. Amazing. Went to culinary school. Did some fun stuff, right? Planted all of these seeds. And what I realized is that the conditions weren't ever right in order to establish root and really grow. And that's okay because it's a learning lesson, right? Richard even said, these are opportunities for growth. And I really believed in that. And so I continued on my way until eventually I dropped a seed. And this is when I had moved to the state of New York. I was living in Brooklyn. Where are my Brooklyn folks at? Anyone? Hey. I was living in Brooklyn. And not only did this seed take root, it grew. And this was my career in software engineering as a quality engineer. It was a space that I found security. When we talk about my background a little bit, and you already gave me applause, thank you, for being a first gen college graduate, a lot of that had effects in recognizing, oh, I can do more and I can be bigger than I've ever been before. Software engineering was an opportunity for me to understand what security actually meant. It was a building mechanism for new things that people in my family had never seen before, myself included. And it took me many places and provided many opportunities for growth. Just like Richard said, right? Felt like I was on the right track. It was phenomenal. I felt it in my soul. When I would do all of the things that I could do, going from country to country, going to conference, building my network, and really working in the engineering community and space, I recognized, you know what? I'm onto something. And so that Taproot continued to grow. Eventually, I grew out of infancy in that space and started to feel the effects of the weathering that came next, right? That trunk had grown a little too tall. Challenges are great, but they're hard in the moment. I'll be the first one to admit that. And so, as I sat there thinking, what am I being challenged by? I really start to recognize that the challenges that were ahead of me were really the challenges about things that I could actually change. As a Black woman in the space, I was literally the only one on a number of my teams in the beginning of my career. I recognized things like pay disparity. It was devastating knowing that people that I trained were making 3 times what I was making. It was things like not having the opportunities that others were given freely because of their in-group privileges or their network. And these things were the wind that really tried to knock my tree down. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. I really don't know. Y'all, dresses with pockets, the business. I don't know that I can do this. And so I started to look for supporting roots. And in those supporting roots, what was provided to me were opportunities to continue to learn and grow, but were genuine nourishment. And what that looked like was mentorship. It looked like mentorship of other Black women I had found throughout the network, searching far and wide. It looked like other women, non-binary folks, who understood the trials of being the ones and onlys in their spaces. It looked like building products and opportunities to be able to help educate folks around what it is to be that one and only and what we do to create a more inclusive environment. And I started to sprout these roots indefinitely. And they grew so big, eventually I recognized, y'all, I've got these roots. I got my taproot that's keeping me secure. I've got these supporting roots that are nourishing me. They're bringing me closer and closer to success. And with them, I know that I can grow tall, right? Surprisingly to say, I didn't know what Richard had told me back in the day would have such a lasting impression on me as I continued throughout my career. It really was in hindsight, looking back, to say, you know what? Is and possible for me? And I had my doubts. As I grew in my engineering career, I recognized, you know what? Maybe this isn't the space for me anymore. Maybe tech isn't it. And so every once in a while, I would go and I'd look at other opportunities, maybe leave. It was still prosperous, but I was still being torn back and forth. I love educating. I love helping people along. I love having my folks with me at work in these places of such opportunity. And yet there's such a divide. And then one day, a lovely woman at a conference that I was speaking at on a stage very similar to this approached me. Her name is Stephanie. And she said, you know what? What you just said on that stage, my team needs to hear it. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever, let's do it. She's like, no, I want you to come to San Francisco. And I said, Not so much, but thanks. Anyways, she's very persistent. When you meet Stephanie, and that's a win because it's going to happen. When you meet Stephanie, you'll recognize that her determination is by far better than anyone. This woman will track you down and she'll get what she needs. And she said, you know what? We need you. Why don't you just come out and meet the team? So I jumped on a flight and I flew to San Francisco and I realized, got you. She got me. I met the team and it was a phenomenal group of folks that were already broad, diverse, and lovely, just like what I had been looking for. Again, thinking that end might be closer than I think. It just might be. So I said, okay, I'll uproot. I'll pull all these lovely roots that I've planted in the ground here in New York City, and I will go and replant them in San Francisco. But little did I know what happens with trees, and I know y'all probably know this, is that when they grow to a point of nourishment, they start to sprout their own seeds to continue on that legacy. So what I was doing was not uprooting what I had already grown. I was plucking the seeds off the floor that fell from that beautiful tree, and I was replanting them somewhere else with an attempt to continue moving that success forward. So I get to San Francisco and I start working for the lovely company Credit Karma. That's hard to say without tearing up a bit because it changed my life. That and became so clear. It was a little bit ridiculous. You know, when you're like in need and in want for so long that you just wait for that other shoe to drop, especially as women in tech, you know, you sit there and you feel like things are just so unobtainable and you keep trying and you keep trying. And then one day, people might surprise you. And that's exactly what happened at Credit Karma. People surprised me. When I got to Credit Karma, I was an engineering manager for our quality team. Wonderful folks. Helped me grow, learn, continue building, helped me understand what security actually meant, helped me understand what a team was. All of these phenomenal things. It was the best thing I've ever done. Then one day, I got approached by my new manager and boss. Phenomenal woman. Phenomenal woman. Women see women. Cats see cats, y'all. Right? And she said, hey, listen, I'd hate to take a woman out of engineering, but I see these passion projects that you have, and I wondered what it would look like to bring those here. And I said, you know what? Let's throw down some more seeds. So I picked it up. At Credit Karma, I'm the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. My job is to see all of you. And I'm going to take a second to literally see all of you because that's important. It's important to be seen. A year or so into this journey, a couple years actually, I think, time flies, y'all. I got the opportunity to work with another wonderful colleague, talent acquisition. We had built a program that was a top priority for the company. It was a leading initiative, making sure that folks were feeling included, seen, that we were building the product in a way that reached all of our members. We were talking about really important things. And as we were thinking about growth, this partnership was one that was going to be one of the tightest. I didn't know it then, but it was the beginning of more seeds needing to be planted. Eventually, the invitation came where we were going to grow Charlotte. And y'all, here we are. So once again, I plucked those seeds off the ground and I got on a plane, flew to Charlotte. I convinced my husband and everything, you know, it was great. If Kathy's listening. You're welcome. But yeah, and we came to Charlotte. And this is where the story ends, but really it begins, right? In Charlotte, here at Credit Karma, we are dedicated and focused on growing Charlotte. And what that means, it means delivering 600 new, high equitable positions for lovely and diverse folks like yourselves. That is our mission. That is our opportunity. That is our growth. I'll take a second to come back to my story a bit. As I look over the span of my career, I realized not only was Richard right, he was very giving in allowing me to understand what success meant. I feel like we all have that person, right? That gives us a little and we take it and we run. If we have the will, I suppose. What I learned over the years is that though it is seldom, it's possible to have your and. And I make sure to remind folks that if you are looking, please continue doing so. Plant a few seeds and see what it does for you, because I know what it's done for me. Again, going back to Credit Karma, going back to the amazing things that we've done. Across the organization, folks now understand diversity, equity, inclusion. They speak that language. And I think that's probably one of my proudest moments, is knowing that in any given room, virtual or otherwise, that I'm in, we are cognizant that there are folks that are unlike us, but are so important to the bottom line of what we are doing. And that's bringing financial success to everyone. It's bringing opportunity for everyone. It's bringing security. And it was then that I realized that, oddly enough, trees take many different forms, inclusive of the jobs that we have and the products that we make. This world of engineering and tech is so phenomenal because it spans across so many different facets of life. It's important as an individual to feel like your contributions are being seen and heard somewhere. And engineering, if I say so myself, is a place where that happens. It's a place where all of us can be seen and heard, and we can produce products that go into the world and that impact spans millions. Millions. And I know that for a fact because the product that I work on does. And so I want to leave with you a few things. Plant your seeds. Recognize that some may fall. That's okay. Keep planting them. When you establish that taproot, know that it takes consistent nourishment, care, love, dedication. Then one day, you might match that with your passion. And with that passion, you will grow into a tree that likely will not fall. And in fact, will be so prosperous, you have the opportunity to spread it on to others. I am humbled and privileged every day to spread my seeds and to continue growing others. It must be the jitters or something. I don't know what these tears are doing, y'all. Anyways, with that I say, I'm so very proud of all of you for showing up for your careers today. I'm so very hopeful that we continue to grow this network and continue to spread our seeds among our peers and our networks. I'm hopeful that we continue to see one another and that we continue to do the things that we know we're passionate about and recognize that that passion will drive us into places and introduce us to people and things that we probably wouldn't have had that opportunity for otherwise. Thank you so much.